Even after such a, what I feel overall was a lackluster week in wrestling, there was still some things to talk about, and that's what we're here to do today. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Tights and Turnbuckles. I'm Travis Fowler Harkrider. If you are new to this channel, thank you for joining us. I hope you like what you hear, and if so, hit that little subscribe button and make sure you have your bell notification on. That'll let you know when we upload a video to the channel at any point or time. Also, make sure you follow our social media pages on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, let's just jump right into our weekly high spots because, quite frankly, there's a few of them. But on the ones that are there, they're actually pretty good in my opinion. Let's start off with Monday Night Raw and El Grande Americano. I gotta say, I know that there's been some backlash over this, especially with the whole coming from Gulf of America thing, and we all know how controversial that has been in our actual political climate. However, in this instance, this is really a tongue-in-cheek situation. Like, this isn't anything that anybody should be getting greatly offended by. It's not like it's the first time that they've had somebody dress up in a luchador mask and call themselves a different name. Juan Cena, and a few others can be noted in that as well. But this really does have just a fun little edge to it where it's pretty humorous to see Chad Gable doing this whole gimmick, and he's doing it well, and he pulled out a banger of a match, which I don't think anybody was shocked by at all with Dragon Lee. But I actually think it's fun. I think it's a great way to generate some heat for himself as well as American Made. And overall, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem once everything kind of cools down after these first couple of weeks, especially if they do something on Raw tomorrow. I really feel like this is just something that fans are going to just find humorous, and it's not going to be a long tenure thing anyway. At least I don't think it will be. It's probably only going to run its course for maybe a month or two, and then we're going to get Chad Gable back to being Chad Gable. So, again, I wouldn't go too far with this because I don't think there's going to be much for it to go far with. Then we saw the reuniting of Jimmy and Jey Uso, Jimmy being the mystery partner for Jey Uso against A-Town Down Under, and they looked great as a tag team, even as so as to have the Motor City Machine Guns talk about potentially having a 2-on-2 tag team match with them. So that might actually be fun. Maybe we get it on this road to Mania. We know that the Motor City Machine Guns are mixed into the tag title scene, so maybe this will be a prelude before WrestleMania. Who knows? I look forward to seeing it, especially if we get it here sooner rather than later. That was the same feeling I had with Braun Breaker versus Penta. I was kind of surprised that they went ahead and pulled the trigger on this match now. I was kind of leaning that they were going to do something for Mania, but it looks like with Breaker picking up the win via DQ thanks to the Judgment Day, we are setting up a fatal four-way match, which is the rumored match for the Intercontinental title. Breaker defending against Penta, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. Looks to be the direction they're going. We'll wait and see if that ends up being how it plays out. It kind of feels like that is what will end up going down, but I don't know how I would feel about the Fatal 4-Way, especially with so many moving parts in multiple matches already. So I guess time will tell if that's indeed what they do, but that's the rumor that we've heard going around as of late. The women's title situation is interesting because I thought that was going to be a triple threat, and it still very well may be. So don't let the whole special referee of Bianca being in the Rhea Ripley Io Sky match tonight actually fool you too much. Of course, if you've got Netflix, you're going to be watching, as I am, on the early time frame since they are in London. That's going to be 2 o'clock Central Time, so be prepared for that. I do see them doing something where it's still going to end up being a triple threat. I hope not, but that's what the feeling is that I get. So I really hope it does end up being a one-on-one, and if it is, I still am very much on the bandwagon of Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley being that match. I know people wouldn't mind Io Sky, and I know people wouldn't mind the triple threat, but considering we've already got one triple threat, and we're looking at a potential fatal four-way for a singular title, and then one triple threat that has nothing on the line, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, I kind of feel like we don't need as many multi-man matches unless it's a tag title situation, because I still feel like we're going to get some kind of multi-man match in that. Still hoping tag team turmoil is the way they go there. Then we look at John Cena and Cody Rhodes again in a promo battle. I kind of felt like this was just a wash, rinse, repeat situation as it was the week before, and I have that exact same feeling for their standoff on Raw this evening as well. Um, I don't know. I kind of haven't minded the heel turn of Cena, but I think the execution has still been very lackluster. Or I should actually rephrase that. The execution was great. The follow up has been, I think, left more to be desired. And I don't know how to feel on that. I wish this was better right now because I don't feel it. I don't feel like Cena is really that evil of a human being. And I really wish they would have gone just a little bit different of a route with this. But it is what it is. It's what we're getting. And Cena and Rhodes, I know we're still going to pull out a great match for night two's main event because, again, we know what night one's is looking at. And we will, again, discuss that momentarily. But hopefully this promo battle this evening is going to be something that we'll be talking about in a good sense. And, again, not just the same thing that we've seen this past week as well as the week prior. Moving over to NXT, Stephanie Vaquer became the first, yes, ladies and gentlemen, despite what Mandy Rose and a few others would like to think, the first double champion to successfully defend two championships for NXT and all of WWE. They've had multiple people, let's clarify this, multiple people have been double champion, Mandy Rose included, winning the NXT UK and NXT Women's Championships. However, here's the kicker. When it involves a unification, that means one title is being discontinued while the other continues. So, in legitimacy, yes, Mandy Rose has won two titles, but because she only defended one after a title unification, she technically is not a double champion. Stephanie Vaquer is double champion because she holds two active singles championships, and even if she had a tag title, it's an active championship. So it's not like one stopped being relevant or stopped being defended because she won two titles. And she was the first person to successfully defend both singles titles, as we mentioned, so that is definitely something that can't be debated. Stephanie Vaquer already making history in WWE in her short time being there. She's a great wrestler, loved watching her matches, and she has a bright future in WWE still to come. Also, on the NXT side, two notes that I saw from this past week. The Trick Williams Obafemi having Javon Evans inserted to this is actually really interesting. I actually wonder if they're going to go triple threat with this NXT title match for Stand and Deliver. It won't be surprising if they do. And I actually have started thinking this whole Dark State stable that we've seen, you know, the ripoff of the Shield. I actually think we might see Dark State align with Trick Williams as Trick being the leader of them, because it looked rather interesting how they've come down a few times when Trick's been in the ring, but they don't attack anybody when he's there. And Trick Williams says, it's not my business, but he doesn't seem too worried about him. Is he not worried because he knows they're not going to attack him because he's a part of them? I think that might be something that we should really pay attention to in the coming weeks to Stand and Deliver. Also, Shawn Spears and Ricky Saints looks like they are going to mash up. We saw the references made of their past from AEW this past week in their promo. I think it should be a solid matchup. Ricky Saints, formerly Ricky Starks, is an unbelievable talent, both charisma and in-ring wise. A match with Shawn Spears, I think, is a great way to introduce him onto the NXT roster for his first main feud, and potentially capturing the North American title at that would be a great little nod in his cap already, being that he's still very fresh on NXT, but he fits like a glove. Spears has always been a fantastic worker, and seeing him doing this character work, going up against Ricky Saints nonetheless, should be a fun time to watch. Over on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest are continuing their feud, which, again, as I've stated before, didn't really have much expectation for. I wasn't really that excited for it, and I'd be lying to say if I'm still not necessarily like excited for it, but it's definitely been more intriguing than what I thought it would be. The attacks from both guys just coming out of nowhere, especially in the backstage area, has been great. This past week, though, it looks like Drew, who is now sporting a black eye because after taking a South of Heaven chokeslam excuse me, I said black eye, a black eye patch, because that choke slam caused him to hit glass on the card that turned out to shoot some actual glass into McIntyre's eye. So hopefully he'll make a quick recovery there. It looks like they've been taking care of him. Again, he's got the patch now to cover that eye. Hopefully it's just temporary and it won't be something we need to worry about as Mania approaches closer. Then over on SmackDown as well, we saw the contract signing, which to me was the only other big point on the show. SmackDown was really lackluster, and the crowd had a lot to do with that too. They seemed very just there, and I hate saying that because this whole European tour has been absolutely phenomenal on camera. But London just really wasn't feeling much of SmackDown, at least not that I could see as a viewer. So maybe if I was there live, it would have been different, but they seemed very quiet and not really into a lot of the things that they were doing until we got to this contract signing. The triple threat match, CM Punk is now officially going to become a WrestleMania main eventer, according to Paul Heyman, who stated in his contract for the triple threat that night one's main event is official. Punk, Rollins, Reigns. This will also be Roman's 10th consecutive WrestleMania main event. This actually defeats Hulk Hogan's record of 9 WrestleMania main events. Roman Reigns also walking into his first Mania without the championship in the last, what, has it been 4 years, 5 years now? It's insane. So all that came out, and that's great that this is going to be Punk's main event time that he's wanted for so many years. But now I wonder to myself, what's the point of the match still? I said this even when we were talking about the prospect of this match being here, that there's no stake. There's no title on the line. There's no championship to be defended. And unless it was like a number one contenders match, I don't really see why we're having the match to begin with. Yes, I know that there's arguably 3 separate stories. Even as I stated on this very podcast, you could argue intertwined together to make this triple threat work. I feel like still it's a stretch because I would rather see Punk versus Reigns or Punk versus Rollins or even just simply Rollins versus Reigns one-on-one. I really am not liking necessarily the idea of the triple threat when there's nothing at stake. I feel like when you have multi-man matches like that, you need to have something on the line. You need to have a number one contendership. You need to have a title match at stake or something along those lines. And maybe there is more to come because, as we saw at the end of SmackDown, the perfect ending to a SmackDown to keep you guessing was while most thought that favor was being cashed in as Punk coming to Heyman and making sure that they are the main event of night one, Punk came back and said, "That's not my favor." So what is this favor? Is it going to play into the main event of WrestleMania? Is this going to have a title implication situation? All these answers I hope we get sooner rather than later, maybe even on Mania night. It's a very interesting time, and yes, the triple threat is made more interesting by not knowing exactly what the favor is, but not by much. So maybe this match will surprise me, and I'll end up loving it by the end of Mania night one. Only time will tell, so I'll take my own bit of advice and let this play out, see where it goes from here. Now, I'm sorry, by the way, guys. I know I've been rubbing my eye a couple times here. It felt like something was in it there. Hopefully I won't have to do that again, so my apologies. Moving over to the AEW side, again, not much of anything notable for myself that I enjoyed this week, but there are a few things that happened on both Dynamite and Collision. Over on Dynamite, the promo battle between Mox and Swerve I thought was fantastic as we go into Dynasty this upcoming weekend. I think it's going to be a fun match. I honestly wouldn't even mind if somewhere down the line we get something of a hardcore match between these two because we know Swerve can play with anything that Mox can do. So seeing these two guys that are willing to do just about anything to one another, it would be very interesting to see what they could pull out in like a Texas death match or even just a simple street fight stipulation. However you want to call it, last man standing. It would be very, very violent, I think, if we get that in the future between Swerve and Mox. Looking forward to seeing how that match plays out at Dynasty. Kenny's promo hyping up the triple threat between him, Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Ricochet at Dynasty was really good. I think this match is going to be excellent between all three of them. All three are great high-flying workers. Mike Bailey with his martial arts background. Kenny Omega, of course, the best bout machine. And Ricochet, who has been doing unbelievable character work since he has been a heel, and we know how he is in the ring. All three of these guys, I think, are going to pull out something that we're all going to remember and end up talking about come the end of Dynasty this upcoming weekend. Over on Collision, this first thing we're going to talk about was a continuation of what we saw from last week's Dynamite, as well as the promo we saw that led up to Collision on Dynamite this past week between FT Rated R, or Rated FTR if you will. Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, and Cope had a sit-down interview that looked like they were having some, quote, problems, tension between them. Dax apologizing for his emotions getting out of control after the street fight from the previous week with Cope. And you could see that there was a little bit of frustration from Dax, but they, by the end of the promo, were saying, we're all good. We're challenging for the trios titles on Collision. That match did take place, but it did not end in the favor of Rated FTR. And it looks like we might be heading towards an FTR split as Dax started losing it on Cash. And could this play into something? Are we about to see maybe FTR still a unit but go against Cope? Is Dax going off on his own? I am very intrigued where this is going to end up going for FTR. Only time's going to tell, but you've got my attention. As well as this Mercedes Moné, and now finally been confronted by Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena this past Saturday on Collision. I really do think this match is going to be absolutely fantastic when they do meet up. Who knows when that'll be? They've kind of teased it for Dynasty, but at the same time, both have talked about being in the Owen Hart Memorial Cup. And could their final be the two of them facing each other at Double or Nothing? I feel like at this moment, you might be rushing it if you put it on Dynasty. Not that I would be mad if it does, but I have a feeling that they're going to try to play this out a little bit longer. And if they're smart, maybe they should and wait till Double or Nothing, as it would actually go right in with the theme. Double or Nothing. How about Ring of Honor World Championship defended by Athena? TBS Championship defended by Mercedes Moné, title for title match. I think you can write yourself. Will that be what we get at Dynasty? Will it wait till Double or Nothing? Very much looking forward to seeing how that turns out. Also, got to point out the Megan Bayne situation. She's been doing great work. Her and Timeless Tony Storm is very much looking like what they refer to as the Brock Lesnar push for Megan Bayne. It'll be interesting to see if this push continues and maybe a crowning of a new women's champion this fast. Who knows? Timeless Tony Storm has a challenge on her head against Megan Bayne this upcoming weekend at Dynasty. Will we see a new women's champion? This is going to be quite the match, this upcoming event here at Dynasty. Now that we've got all of our high spots out of the way, let's get into some of the news that came out. TNA having the biggest news week and firing multiple employees, notably one of Gail Kim. Now, there had been some reports coming out that Gail Kim had an issue with another coworker by the name of Ariel Schnerner, I believe is how it's pronounced. If I butchered that, my apologies. The word going around was that there was differences between those two parties, and they confronted the new president, I believe his name again is Carlos Silva, of TNA, stating that you need to choose between one of these two. And as the story goes, his choice was neither of them and firing both of them, which, if this story is true, I kind of side with him. If somebody's going to present you with an ultimatum like that, then you obviously don't need to have that kind of problem on either side if that's going to happen. And if somebody's going to present you with an ultimatum, easiest choice is to let both go. However, since that story came out, Gail Kim has come out to defend herself and clap back against rumors stating, don't believe everything you read or hear about. Could there be more to this story? Could this also just be completely a false narrative? Only when they decide to talk about it will we know what actually happened. Until Gail decides to say anything more of what's gone on, we don't know the full story. But all we do know is that several names backstage at TNA were very surprised and unhappy with Kim's firing. So much is so that word going around is some have already spoken to some media outlets who have remained anonymous, stating that they will leave the company once their contract expires, which is very disheartening because I feel like TNA has been doing all the right things to get back on track, and to have these last two things happen over the past year, a firing of Scott D'Amore, which was a huge blow, but they seem to bounce back from, only to now have this take place this past week, firing Gail Kim and several others. I don't know. I'm hoping things are still going to be good for TNA, as I really want to see them continue their success and momentum moving forward. That said, as part of those same announcements, it was noted that Delirious, the former head booker of Ring of Honor, is now going to be the head of creative for TNA. Some have already groaned at that, stating what you saw at the end of Ring of Honor's initial run before they were purchased by Tony Khan and AEW, left little to be desired. So I'm not going to say anything negative. Again, I like to try to wait and see how things go. Will it intrigue me to continue to come back and watching TNA? I've enjoyed what they've done to this point, and I hope it doesn't stop here. I hope they continue to create compelling TV that gets them that viewership and a new media deal and fans flocking to watch their show. They've been doing great things, and I hope that momentum continues for them still. Speaking still of TNA, though, AJ Francis, who has been a great heel for that company, who has been fantastic, firing on all cylinders, was actually named by Swerve in an interview recently as to the reason why Hit Row was fired from WWE back during 2021-2022. And it was very sad to hear that one man who is, in some people's eyes, maybe sticking up for his fellow partner in crime, B-Fab, wondering about travel is how the story went, to the point where Vince McMahon told him to basically know his role and don't worry about talent that's not yourself. We'll take care of the talent. Mind your business. Stay in your lane. Yada, yada, yada. And apparently that was enough to then get them all fired just a couple weeks later, according to Swerve, to which AJ has come out and said that yes, indeed, he has been that man that was noted for being the reason they were let go, and that he would proudly do it over again, sticking up for a friend and a sister of his, as he mentioned. So really, whatever side of the fence you land on, it is irrelevant because it's not going to change what has happened. And honestly, all of them have gone on to do different things of different success levels. Swerve obviously having the most success to this point. I would argue AJ has actually had his own share of success right behind Swerve. Ashanti the Adonis is down in NXT doing his thing with Carmen Petrovich as we speak. And B-Fab is now starting her own solo singles career, not being as heavily involved with the Street Profits lately, but more so with Mi Chin over on SmackDown, and showing her improvement in the ring as well as her great character work as a solo act. So everybody seems to be paying off in the overall anyway, so it's irrelevant who did what to who and what happened back then, because the present, all four of them are succeeding in some form or fashion, and you love to see things like that happen. The last two things of note: Saraya announcing she has left AEW and has made it known that she is open to a WWE return. She has said that if the deal is right, she would return to the company. She has no ill will towards them, and they were the ones that made her who she is, as she has noted. So I do believe it's only going to be a matter of time before we see Saraya back on our TV screens, just like I feel we only have a short amount of time to wait before we see Aleister Black, which we saw a promo again that looks to be for his return, and it's looking like April 25th may be that return date, which coincidentally is the first SmackDown after WrestleMania, so it looks like the stage is being set perfectly for his return. And this upcoming week in Chicago is the debut of the newly signed Rey Fénix to WWE. That will be an interesting debut, and people have already started wondering when we'll see Penta and Rey Fénix team together, as that was the original plan when news broke that they were trying to come over to WWE late last year. Obviously, as things went, that came out and halted the two of them from coming to WWE when they originally wanted, and the Motor City Machine Guns got that push that was apparently supposed to be for them. However, things have changed. I think it's going to work out even better for both of them. And I kind of wish they would have just called him Phoenix, because I like how Penta's is an easy one short name. And I think Phoenix could have done the same thing, because think about the marquee. Penta, Phoenix, Lucha Brothers. It's a great marketing slogan, but Rey Fenix isn't bad either. This will be great to see what he does, especially the Chicago crowd, who will give him his adulation, much to the same as what happened when Penta debuted. I very much think you're going to see a great crowd reception, especially being in Chicago, for Rey Fenix on SmackDown. And this also is worth noting that rumoredly Mariah May, who is coming off a spectacular story with Toni Storm, an unbelievable story that played out over 18 months with a great finish, a Hollywood ending as they called it. She apparently is in a contract year. Will she still re-sign with AEW? I pretty much think she will, but there could be a chance we could see her make the leap to WWE. She did famously post a picture of her in front of a WWE marquee for WrestleMania 38 down in Dallas. That was the same event I was at, and who knows? Could she make the jump? We shall see here, I think, coming up pretty quickly. Another name who is making a jump over to AEW, however, is her friend Mina. Everybody loves Mina Shirakawa, I believe is how it's pronounced. I probably butchered that too. But I've enjoyed her work. I love that she's coming over to the States. She's a great character. I think she's fun, energetic, and she is pretty cute. I am not even going to sugarcoat that. She's a great character, and I look forward to seeing what she can do here on the AEW roster. She's already mixing it up a little bit online with Mercedes Moné, so that should be fun if these two are going to interact in this upcoming months for AEW's women's division. And finally, this is one thing that I think has been on everybody's mind and topic since Lex Luger was announced as being an inductee for this year's Hall of Fame. Who would be the person to induct him? He has gone on record as to saying he would like for both DDP and Sting to be his inductees for the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Some have already pointed out, though, and Sting has even said himself, that he doesn't think he'll be able to do it because of his AEW commitment. And that has now led to some wondering, will Tony make the exception and let Sting go and do the induction for Lex Luger? Because at the end of the day, and this is the same camp I fall on, this isn't about WWE versus AEW. This has nothing to do with some kind of tribalism BS that people would like to make you think it is. This is simply because Lex Luger, who has been through hell over the last couple of decades and is now in the right frame of mind, doing better for himself and finally being able to stand up again and even walk a little bit on his own after a spinal cord and neck issue that took place several years ago. He is now on an up and up and doing much better for himself. And this is for the person. This isn't about a company. This is about Lex Luger, the human being, wanting his best friend, one of his best friends, to be there with him, to induct him for a special moment in the WWE Hall of Fame. And honestly, Tony being such a fan and a historian at that of professional wrestling, no matter what you want to say about the guy, I even give it to him that he is legit a fan of professional wrestling, and I think he is going to end up doing what many others would do, again, myself included, let Sting go over and induct his friend, because that's what would mean the most to Luger himself. So, guys, that's what we have for you on a show today. What do you think should happen with the AEW Tony Khan situation? Should Tony allow Sting to go and induct Luger into the Hall of Fame? Let me know in those comments down below. Are you excited for the triple threat match? Punk, Rollins, and Reigns at WrestleMania? What about Cena and Rhodes? Are you excited for that? Let me know about that down in those comments as well. And anything else you want to talk about, sound off, because I love talking wrestling with you guys. Again, if you're new to this show, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you aren't new to the show, I am so glad that you've come back. I hope every one of y'all are following us here on YouTube. Again, make sure you're following us here as well as our other socials, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. I'll come back next week to talk more professional wrestling, and maybe we'll even see some great things happen for AEW Dynasty next Sunday. Oh, I cannot wait till we get to talk about that show the following week. Until that time, guys, y'all take care, and I hope you continue to love pro wrestling.